Hi, my name is Dr. Ross Hauser. Welcome to the Hauser Neck Center here in Fort Myers, Florida, here with Tom. Now, Tom, you obviously have something on your lap, so why don't you describe what that is? And you and I have known each other for about a year and a half, so
Yes.
maybe you just tell your story and when your visual impairment and stuff started.
Sure. This is a visually impaired cane. I'm still using it at this time, and let's see how much more I got to use it. When I was 4 to 5 years old, I was diagnosed with what they call an arachnoid cyst, which I had a fluid buildup on the right temple, front temple of my brain, and then they had to implant a shunt into that space to keep the fluid, to maintain it, and drain it out of the brain down to my abdomen. So for 13 years, I went with no problems, and I started having some burning in the front part of my temple of my brain. And then I was 18, I had it revised again, and they put it in, and they tried to leave it out, which was interesting. And then he stitched the incision over here for 4 days in a row, trying to leave it out, and then the fluid kept on leaking out of the sutures. So they had to put it back in. He was afraid I was going to get meningitis. He didn't think I needed it anymore. So they implanted another shunt, and he told me, Tom, it's going to barely do anything. Just forget it's even there. It's going to stop working sometime down the road, and then you probably won't need it anymore. Okay, great. Then I went 32 years without any issues. When I hit 50, I started having issues. It all started out with sinus infections. And I kept on getting these chronic sinus infections, and I was on antibiotics like every 6 weeks, and I couldn't get rid of it. Well, then it progressed. And when it progressed, I was at a car dealership. I put one foot out of the car, the other foot out of the car, and then just completely passed out, face first into the ground, and hit my left eye, and I had to go to the hospital. I said, what the heck was going on with that? And then it further progressed after that. And what happened, I would be talking on the phone, I would just pass out. And then I'd be walking, my legs would just give out. Boom. They would just give out and I'd fall on the floor. Then the passing out continued, and then the passing out got longer and longer and longer, the episodes, and then the passing out, the losing of the legs, I'd be in the middle of something, and then bam, they'd just go back, and then they'll come back, and I'd be fine. What happened was my vision started to slowly started to lose the vision. And I went to a neuro-ophthalmologist. He told me, Tom, you're going blind. I said, what are you talking about? He says to me that you're slowly starting to lose your vision. I said, well, the neurosurgeon told me there's nothing wrong with me. They did plenty of CAT scans. There was no midline shift in the brain, and they just kept on telling me there was nothing wrong. I said, okay. I said, well, you got a big fluid space over here, and I haven't had a shunt in 32 years. What do I do? There's nothing wrong, nothing wrong. And it kept on progressing. To make a long story short, back in December of 2014, I started, my vision will go in and out. I would lose it, then it would come back, be 100% again, then lose it, come back. And then around the first week of January 2015, then my vision just went into complete, well, actually first, it went into where I had tunnel vision. So I lost all the peripheral, and it went into tunnel vision. Then about a week later, it went completely blurry. Then they called me in for an emergency CAT scan. I did a CAT scan. Then they told me I needed to do a spinal tap. I said, okay, well, what do you need the spinal tap for? We need to do the opening pressure. We're also going to check the fluids for any toxins in your spinal fluid. And I said, okay, fine. Well, lo and behold, they did the spinal tap. They did the testing for the toxin in the spinal fluid, did not record the opening pressure. Go back, and he says, you need to do another spinal tap. I said, okay. I said, what happened? He says, we didn't get the opening pressure. I said, okay. Well, lo and behold, I go back for the second spinal tap. He does the opening pressure. It was 50 centimeters and blowing out of the top of the needle. That's how much pressure I had in my head from the fluid buildup. And I said, holy cow. He says, Tom, you need a shunt. You need surgery right away. I said, I could go back upstairs. and go to see neurosurgeon. Tom, we got to get you scheduled for an optic nerve fenestration. I said, well, what's that for? I said, I just need a shunt. He says, well, let's do the optic nerve fenestration, get the pressure off the optic nerve, where they make an incision into the sheath of the optic nerve and take the pressure off. And that kind of worked for about 3 weeks, and the vision started to slowly come back. I said, okay, this is kind of cool. And then they scheduled me for the shunt afterwards. And on March 4th of 2015, I had the shunt implanted. And then after the surgery, the vision came back. I could start reading the letters off the cup. I could start seeing down the hallway. I could start watching TV again. This was after 3 months of not having my vision. And, and then within 24 to 48 hours, then the visual snow started setting in. I remember coming home from the hospital. I sat down in the seat of our vehicle, and the visual snow set in. And it was all the way home for about 45 miles. It was visual snow all the way in, coming back to my house. Then when I got out of the truck, I stood up. Then the visual snow disappeared, and I now can see, okay, there's my garage door. And my friend said to me, do you need help getting in the house? I said, no, I'm going to be fine. I walked in, see my entryway. There's the door, opened up the door, and started walking down the hallway. Here comes my cat. I could see all the definition of the tile, everything. I said, oh, this is great. But I started getting a little bit of visual snow, but I could still see through it. And then when I laid down on the couch, and as soon as I did, the visual snow came back. I said, okay. I said, this is interesting. And then I went back to the neurosurgeon again, and I said to him, well, I can't see. It's kind of blurry. You got visual snow. Well, we got to give it time. We'll see what happens. And then it went on from there. This condition has persisted for the last over 10 years. I went all over the country. And then finally, I found a neurosurgeon to treat me in California, and he did what they call an optic arachnoid cyst fenestration, where they go in with an endoscope and they punch a little hole, and then they channel it to where it will drain better out of the arachnoid membrane, out of the arachnoid space. Well, after that, he walks in and says, Tom, can you see? I said, no, I still got the visual snow. I'm still blurred out. He says, that's interesting. Well, it went on from there. Well, then, okay, we got to ligate the shunt catheter. Okay, let's do that. Ligates it. Now we need to remove the shunt. Well, for the first time for 16 months, I didn't have a shunt. Go back. Now you have papilledema on your optic nerve. Now we got to put a shunt back in. Okay, put a shunt back in, and implants a shunt. And I said, did you put a fixed pressure shunt in? No, I put an adjustable one. He said, oh my God, here we go again. Okay, great. I said, well, this one is not working well. We'll go back in, put another shunt that, again, said it was going to barely do nothing, but still adjustable. He said at the minimum setting, and it didn't change anything. The funniest thing was I kept on getting the pressure on the left side of my head. But the interesting thing...
Right side or left side?
It was on the right side. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
And then what happened is, I guess over the 32 years, over a period of time, building drop by drop, the arachnoid cyst got much bigger. It was huge. He told me to drew it out on my head. He said it was from here all the way down to here. I said, man, that's huge. He says, yeah, you got a huge space there. I said, well, what's my condition? He says, well, you're stable. I said, stable? I said, that's not going to work for me. I came back, and then I started doing some more research. But the funniest thing was I still had this pressure on the left side of my head, especially in the front right temple. And I said, something's not right here. That's not making sense. And prior to that, I always had this pain going down the left side of my cervical. And I went to a chiropractor. He used to put me in a rack. He'd pull my neck up, and that would relieve all the pressure. And you could feel the blood rushing up to my head, and we'll leave it for a short period of time, and then we'll go right back to where it was. And then I started doing some research, and I went to a chiropractor here locally, and he used a thermal imaging thing, and he said, oh, okay, your neck looks good. I said, I was doing some research on the internet and on YouTube, and I found Dr. Hauser, and he's describing all the symptoms I have. He said, well, yeah, I know Dr. Hauser really well. I said, okay, cool. I said, well, what do you think? He told me straight out. He says, Tom, if there's something going on with you, Dr. Hauser will find it. I said, really? I says, okay, can you set me up with him because I want to see this gentleman? And he says, yeah. And I called in. I filled out an application. They accepted me, and I came in for my first appointment. And, and that's where this all started.
When was your first appointment?
February 2024.
Okay, so why don't you describe what's better, what's not better, and then what treatment did you get? And
Okay. Well, to be honest with you, when I first walked into your office, I was not very optimistic.
Okay.
And I said, well, okay, let's give it a shot. I don't have anything, but I knew, once we had our first conversation, Dr. Hauser, the minute you told me, let's do a CTV, I said, bam, this is the guy I want to be with. Mm-hmm. And I said, now he knows what he's doing because he's going to look at the veins, the vessels, and the capillaries, exactly what I need, because nobody ever did that before.
Yes, sir.
They did the arteries, but they didn't do the veins and the vessels and the capillaries. I said, okay, cool.
So what did that show?
That showed, I don't remember, but when I had my neurosurgeon reviewed it,
Okay.
he told me that, Tom, your fluid space has shrunk a little bit, not much, but just very little. But he says there's no other issues with your veins or your capillaries. He said, I said, you got to be kidding me. I said, after all of those years of having that pressure on my brain, that fluid space, you mean to tell me there's no issue? He says, no. He says, your brain looks great. He says, just keep on doing what you're doing. I said, okay, great. And then you sent me in for testing with the DMX motion X-ray, and then you did the ultrasound. Well, the ultrasound was what blew my mind, because when you told me my left optic nerve was at 10.3 millimeters and my right was at 8.9 millimeters, although it was supposed to be at 3-4 millimeters, I said, you've got to be kidding me. You mean to tell me all these professionals I went to, all these eye doctors and eye centers I went to, and they never told me that my optic nerves were swollen?
Well, let me just ask you this. In all the doctors that you saw, did somebody do an ultrasound of your eye, or was the first time here?
No, one time over in Miami.
Okay.
They did.
Okay, so at some point they did an ultrasound.
But never told me my
I got
optic
you.
nerves were swollen.
That your optic nerve sheath diameters were high.
No, never told me.
Okay, so you did have jugular vein compression. Like, that's what we found. You did have jugular vein compression.
Yes.
Okay, and then have you been doing curve correction?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
And my issue is at night. So I'm finding the right pillow to support my neck to get over that. That's the clinker. I think I'm with the right pillow now. I just ordered 2 more last night because I want to hit this thing out of the park moving forward.
Beside your visual symptoms and the thing you described over your right temple, did you have any other symptoms? Digestive, swallowing?
Yes.
Neck pain? Tell us about all the other symptoms you had.
The digestive part, I always had like this swelling in my abdomen.
Right.
I worked out.
Yeah.
I powerlifted. You name it, I did, and I couldn't get rid of this thing for years and years and years. And I said, what the heck is going on? I couldn't get a 6-pack, right? I was shooting for a 12-pack, but I was, I was trying to 6-pack what it did, right? But anyways, I couldn't. Everybody said I was fat, and I said, what the heck are you talking about? Okay. Right? But I always functioned well, and I believe through all the training I've done all my life, with all the dilation, maybe dilating the jugular veins and all the veins and everything, maybe helped me maybe go that long for 32 years before I kind of stopped training so much. Okay. Maybe, I don't know. That's just my thought. But anyways, that's what I had. Now I don't have that.
Okay, gotcha.
Swelling in my abdomen.
Did you get tachycardia or dizziness? Did you have any of that, or tinnitus? Did you have any of those?
Never with the ears, which was interesting. Okay. Never. What is tachycardia, anyways?
Like you palpitations and your heart rate's going real high.
Not that I could. Not that I can remember.
You had dizziness or not?
I did have dizziness. Yes.
Okay, so explain that.
I had the dizziness. I would walk down the hall and I would get real sweaty and clammy, kind of. Yeah. And then that's when the dizziness would kick in. Okay. And you lose balance and stuff like that.
What changes have you found since you've been seeing me? What are the main changes?
Well, the first treatment, I said, okay, this seems like a little bit of a change. Then the second treatment, okay, this seems like a little bit more of a change. Then the third treatment seems like a little bit more of a change. And the fourth treatment, I said to myself, you know what? I'm getting really optimistic about this. This is interesting. I felt less pressure in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I started getting snapshots of clear vision.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't last long, but they were snapshots. I said, okay, this is cool. The fifth treatment is where it started to change. When you started hitting the right side more than the left side,
Mm-hmm.
okay, starting to hit it equally, well, the pressure I was feeling on the right side of my head all this time, halfway up, okay,
Yes.
that's disappeared. And I said, holy cow, look at that. That's halfway up. But I still had this
Okay.
feeling in the right temple, right?
Yes.
The sixth treatment, well, guess what happened? It went all the way up to here. I didn't feel anything anymore.
Okay.
Now, since that sixth treatment, I haven't felt anything over here anymore. Well, I shouldn't say anything. Barely, barely, barely,
Okay.
barely. Now it's just in the sinuses. It's all up in here.
Okay.
And now what happens, depending on how much pressure I have there, it shoots up and then shoots out, and you can feel it in the temples a little bit. But you can feel it in the front of my head. That's all I'm feeling. The neck pain is gone. The pressure on both sides of my head is gone. It's just all in the front to over here now. Now I'm really looking forward to the seventh treatment.
Yes,
Seventh
sir.
treatment. This is exciting.
Yes, sir. Okay. Just out of curiosity, before you came here, as it relates to your vision, were they giving you any hope that it might get better?
No, Tom, what you're seeing is a phenomenon.
Okay.
The list goes on and on. I
Okay.
said, listen, it was kind of funny. Back in December 2015, Dr. House, I had stem cell treatment done on my eyes.
Okay.
And when I went in to see the doctor for the follow-up, he put his bright light in my eye. And he says, Tom, you can see. I said, what the heck are you talking about? I says, I can't see. I don't have a picture. He says, you can see. He says, I'm shining this bright light in your eyes and your pupils are dilating or constricting. I says, I don't know what you're talking about, man. And he said, well, he could see. I'll see you in another month. I said, okay, fine. But until I came here,
Yes, sir.
here's what's going on now, okay? When I get up in the morning, I get these little flashes of light in my eye. But, okay, it's like a little bit of vision. I open my eyes are closed, my eyes are closing. It's the pressure change between you get up and when you're walking. One night, since the sixth treatment, I woke up. It's the first time I didn't have any visual snow in my eyes.
Oh, great.
And I said, you've got to be kidding me. It was just a slight blur. I could see all the light in the bathroom.
Okay, good.
And I said, holy cow, it was only happened one time. But I said, we are on the right track here for sure. And now what's happening now is a good majority of the time I'm getting to see more of what I'm doing, the motion.
Yeah, awesome.
The movement. Okay, so if I do a slam ball,
Yes, sir.
I can see the movement. The more I do it, the more movement I can see.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
I'm saying, holy cow.
That's fantastic.
So we're hitting it out of the park with this thing, Dr. House. I'm just telling you that.
I think you, from what I recall too, I didn't promise you anything.
No.
Like when you first got here, because sometimes, like I even had a new patient today that I saw. Like there are times where somebody comes in, like you had a bunch of shunts, the ophthalmologists and different doctors are like, Tom, the vision's not going to come back. So I just want to let everybody know, like I didn't promise you anything, but I just thought your case illustrates there just are times, whether it's for compassionate reasons or other reasons, like you said, you had a lot of fluid around your optic nerve. If there's a sheath, and you even had fenestration of that sheath at one point, so you have a sheath, and if you have extra fluid around the sheath and the nerve's in the middle, it at least makes sense, like, geez, if we open up your jugular veins and the fluid goes away, is it possible that Tom could gain some sight? Is it possible? So there's our times where you just got to give it a try. And I think your case illustrates, too, there are times where it just takes time, like you got one treatment, like it's been a year and a half and we've only done 6 treatments. So it's not like I've been seeing you every month.
Yes.
You and I are just like, no, work on your curve. I'll see you in 2 or 3 months. And then we just meet. I just thought your case illustrated for those watching of, there just are times where you got to give it a try,
Well, it works.
Yeah.
Let me put it to you that way. It works.
It's helping you a lot.
What a difference.
Okay.
I mean, I can't even feel, I can barely feel anything on the right side of my head anymore, if I even feel it. I can't wait to get an MRI to see if there's any fluid even left over here. I'm excited about that day. That's what I'm excited about.
Okay.
But Dr. Hauser, there's one thing I know in my mind, okay, and what I can see, the vision is there, and I know it's there. And with the optic nerve swelling the way it is, think about that. That's 3 to 4 times the size it should be. That's insane.
Yes, sir.
Okay, once we get that off, okay, to me, it's on. And I know with me getting the pressure, and here's the thing I want to share with everybody. You get a shunt pulled in, you pull the pressure off right away. Well, the chances of your neurons or your cells dying, right, is a good shot because it takes it out of shock, and all of a sudden, maybe it could change. I don't know. Here's the juice to this treatment, okay? And this is why I pursued this. What you're doing is you're slowly peeling off the pressure. And as you slowly peel off the pressure, in my mind, this is my thoughts and this is my motivation, as you peel off the pressure, your brain starts to slowly heal in everything that's involved with it. And as time goes on, so in other words, we do another treatment, right? And okay, well, that peels off again while the nerve heals more and everything around it, okay, as we open it up. That's the juice to this treatment. You're slowly taking everything off, and as you do, it's healing, then you do a little bit more, it's healing some more, you're doing a little bit more. That's, to me, that's the way things should be done. That's my opinion.
Appreciate that.
And this is why, to me, this is such a positive treatment, and I wish we could just reach so much more people with this because it's so beneficial, it's incredible.
Yeah, appreciate that.
I would have never, ever thought that I would get this far where I wouldn't feel anything on the right side of my head. Dr. Hauser, I'm going to tell you one thing. Thank you.
Thanks,
You saved my life, man.
Thanks, bro.
One shot failure, and I was done. Because if that fluid would have built up again in my head, I was finished. You prevented that in my eyes. So I just want to thank you and say thank you. If there's anything I want to tell you with this video, is just thank you for saving my life because my son needs me. So I appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for saying that, but
I mean it.
You've done
I mean that from my heart.
Too.
I mean that from the bottom of my heart. You saved my life. I've been all over the country, and nobody can tell me what's wrong, and nobody can do anything for me. And I just want to tell you, thank you for saving my life. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Love you.
I appreciate. I'm sorry for getting emotional.
No.
But that's the God's honest truth.
It's good. Almost every day, I hear stories of, well, basically I hear stories of where people have quote unquote untreatable things that we treat. And then like the other day, you would have liked this. I had a patient who, like Celine Dion has stiff man syndrome. I don't know if you knew that, Celine Dion, the singer, but anyway, we had a patient with stiff man syndrome, and man, he's just doing so good. He's getting so much better. But again, like, I think the neck, it's the highway to the brain and out of the brain. So if anybody who's been on the highway and there's a car accident knows there's a lot of traffic jam and a lot of bad things happen with a traffic jam on the highway. So you can imagine if there's a traffic jam of the highway in the neck, the brain's really going to suffer. And a lot of people don't realize the eye's in the brain. So like with Alzheimer's, the toxins accumulate in the eye before the tau protein and stuff, it actually accumulates in the eye before the brain. So, so whatever things go on in the brain, they're probably going on in the eye, basically.
Yeah, Dr. Hauser, what baffles me, okay? Why neurosurgeons, they don't examine the head and the neck at the same time?
Yeah.
And I've told them all this time, it's my neck, it's my neck, it's my neck, it's in my neck. And why they don't look at both at the same time, that's the interesting thing to me, is why they don't. And do you have a neurosurgeon for the neck? Right. And then you have a neurosurgeon just for the head.
I know, it's not good.
I don't understand that. Back in 1983, when I had the shunt revised, it seems like I had better treatment back then than it is today. It's really weird.
It's too specialized. Everybody's so super specialized.
I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
I'm glad this was available
Yeah.
to me. I'm glad I found it. I have a phenomenal neurosurgeon out in California. I praise this guy. Tell me he's a
Awesome.
genius all the time. But there's nothing more he can do for me. And this is where you come in.
Well, that's
and
where
also,
the internet
boom.
helps, so people can research me or research other things, and then
That's where I found. That's
and
where I found my
then,
neurosurgeon. That's
yeah,
where
and
I
then
found
you know too, we're trying to be objective about it, so we don't just measure your eye nerve once. You know, we periodically check it just to make sure that you're heading in the right way, and then
I can go on and go on about the story and what I was told over the period of time, especially with the optic nerve fenestration. It was so interesting because when he looked at my eyes, he said, "Tom, your optic nerves are not that bad. I don't know why they're having you do this." I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "I'm looking at your optic nerves. They're fine. Usually I get people with they're broken open, they're bleeding, da 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 da." He says, "You look fine."
okay,
I said, "You know, the story goes on and on and on. You know, and we could go on all day long, but it's been an experience."
yeah,
I don't look at it, Dr. Hauser, as a disability. To me, it's not. It's a challenge.
okay, that's good.
I don't point fingers. I don't do anything. I'm finding ways to get it back. I don't care what I got to do. I don't care how I got to go.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to beat this thing.
Okay.
And that's all that's on my mind is every day. You know, you may not get a yard, but you may gain an inch. And that's the way I look at it. But what I'm seeing right now, even in here, with the difference of the light in my eyes, and the difference of the fading of the visual snow, and you know, you get that hood over the black. I'm seeing all the stuff starting to fade away.
That's good.
And
Awesome.
I'm saying to myself, "Oh my God, 7th treatment." Okay, I'm all excited here because I think between the 7th and 8th treatment, boom. I think that's what I'm going to even see more. Maybe I'll see. Who knows? I don't know. But the bottom line, it's improving. It's going in the right direction, and I'm very, very, very excited about it. But the key is this fluid space over here, not
Yeah,
feeling
so the
this
pressure
anymore.
is finally relieving.
Dr. House, I can't even tell you
Yeah,
the
it's
difference.
great.
Holy cow. I want to see how much this thing is reduced. I'm really excited about it. So,
Okay.
so you know, that's
do you want to get an MRI now, or you want to wait a little bit?
I would say after the 8th treatment.
Okay.
I would say
that sounds good.
Let's
Well, we
let's
probably
do it.
should get you going. We probably should do your next treatment. You ready?
Oh, I'm excited.
Okay. So
You got the
let's
needles
go.
ready? Let's do it.
Thanks you again for sharing your story.
Thank you for saving my life.
Thank you so much.
I can't tell you enough.